I'm going to go through the sharpening setups that I have used in the past and currently use. And a lot of you guys have been asking for different budget setups for sharpening stations. You can spend as little as nothing to as high as $250 for like a really high-end setup. But keep in mind, what you spend on your sharpening kit has less to do with your sharpening skill and more to do with your overall budget and what you're comfortable spending. And just think about what will give you the most pleasure to use and make it easiest for you to sharpen your knives on. Okay? So if you guys watched my videos, back when I first started my sharpening videos about 2.5 years ago, I was using a lot of bricks, or really just one brick. So this is the brick that I found in my backyard when I was living in Los Angeles, and I've kept it ever since. It's the brick. You guys all know the brick. I haven't gotten a name for this thing yet, but maybe I'll still pick a name for this brick at some point. The brick gives you everything you need. It elevates your whetstones, and it's just a nice solid base to work from. One thing I will recommend if you guys go with a brick for a sharpening base is to get a cloth or a rag of some sort. All you have to do is wet the rag, put the brick on top, and then wrap it over the top, and then your whetstone goes on top. But just make sure that your rag is damp or wet, that way your brick doesn't slide around and the whetstone doesn't slide on top of the brick as well. It doesn't cost anything, but it gets the job done, and it's especially great for those who are just getting into knife sharpening and you're not sure what you want to spend on your knife sharpening kit or whether or not you actually want to stay with hand sharpening. So it's a really good way for those who are getting into knife sharpening to explore, to learn, and not spend a whole lot of money. This is a silicone mat I bought for, I want to say about like $10 or $15. A couple of reasons why I do recommend a mat. First, it does catch water when you are sharpening, and it catches the slur that comes off of the whetstone. So if you're in the kitchen and you're sharpening on your countertops, it's nice to keep that slur and the muddy waters off your countertop. It's 12 by 19, and it's great because it creates a nice non-slip surface to work on. The next option here will cost you between $15 to $25. And why is there a $10 difference? Now, after about 3 to 4 months of use, I did notice a little bit of rust developing on the rods and also on the washers. And that didn't really concern me. I thought it was mostly from the shavings from the knives coming off, and then that was actually causing rust to form, like the actual rust from a carbon knife was actually sticking onto the rods. But just to test the theory, I washed it, I scrubbed it off, and sure enough, rust was actually developing on the hardware of the whetstone holder, which is fine. It still functions. Like I said, this is about 3 years old and it still works just fine. So even though there is a little bit of rust on it, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just more of an eyesore than anything else. This base over here is by Naniwa and is using true stainless steel hardware. I've had this base here for a couple of months now and there are no rust developing on it yet. Two of the biggest benefits I have found on the Naniwa versus the generic brand is the Naniwa is a bit more wider. It's about a 1/4 inch wider both at the base and at the legs of the base, and so your stones tend to feel a bit more stable. The stability of whetstones have never been a problem. The only time I did find kind of a little bit of a problem was when I'm grinding away a lot of materials on a diamond plate and I'm putting a bit more pressure than I normally would. The base sometimes do kind of give way, and the stones do kind of rock a little bit. On the 90-watt, because it is more wider, it does provide a more stable platform, especially when using on the diamond plates. So is the 90-watt version worth the extra $5 or $10 over the generic brand? I would say yes. The rust is not that big of an issue because rust is developing very slowly, but it will rust. So for those who don't want rust, I would say, yeah, go with the more higher end 90-watt brand. But the stability to me is the biggest factor here. I do a lot of sharpening, as you guys may know. I do a lot of knife repairs and knife restorations, so having the most stable platform to work on is very crucial. So this setup here I've got right now is about a $120 setup. You've got your whetstone holder, your 90-watt sink bridge, and your water bin. This is more of a semi-permanent setup because of the water you put into it. It weighs it down a little bit more. I have a dedicated sharpening station here in my garage, so I love this setup here. This setup here is optimal for those who have a dedicated space for knife sharpening, or you do a lot of grinding of materials from your knives, from repairs and whatnot. And it's particularly good for those who do a lot of sharpening on soaking whetstones. You are able to actually have a stone soak while you're sharpening and working on something else. The 4-inch deep bin holds a lot of water, and so if I know that I'm doing a lot of sharpening that day, I use the 4-inch bin. But the 2.5-inch bin is a bit more handy, it's easier to move, it's easier to store. You have absolutely zero excuses for a dull knife with this setup here. It's what I would consider a professional grade, professional quality setup for your soaking whetstones. This bin over here is just the same thing as what you see here. It's 2.5 inches deep, but it's just solid black instead of clear. Just personal preference. I just tried the black just to see how it looks. I actually really like it. So this is the setup that I use when I'm using my splash and goes. If I don't need a lot of water, I don't need my stones soaking while I'm sharpening, this is the perfect setup. It's a sharpening pond with the whetstone holder as a base. And that's really it. I designed this after using the Sharpening glass sharpening pond, and the sharpening pond is a great piece of, a sharpening kit. It uses rubber legs, but it uses tempered glass in the middle. Tempered glass, I've never found it to be fragile. It's very nice. It's very strong. It's just kind of a weird material to use as a sharpening base because you have metal that may be hitting it. If you want to take it into the field, if you drop it, the tempered glass will break. And so I designed it with something other than tempered glass. And also it's $230. I didn't want to spend $230. I had to find a way to sandwich a 5mm thick piece of aluminum between two rubber molds, and then how to glue them up properly, how to glue them up so that the glue doesn't spill out of the seams. And so that actually took quite a bit of time to design and engineer. I do still use the water bin. I use a water bin again when I'm doing a lot of heavy repairs that need a lot of water for soaking stones, but this is the sharpening setup that I use when I don't have a lot of water or I'm using my splash and goes. So these two setups I use equally. It just depends on what I'm actually repairing or sharpening at that time. So they are my go-to setups. All of these options here will give you a sharp knife. The sharpness of your knife has nothing to do with what equipment you use. There is nothing wrong with an amateur choosing one of these setups or a professional chef using just a brick. Use what you can afford, use what is accessible to you, and enjoy the sharpening process. So let me know in the comments what you guys actually use for your sharpening setups, whether you guys use something similar to what I have here, if you guys use a plank of wood or brick, or anything you guys have. I'm sure you guys have a lot of DIY setups that you guys use. So I want to hear what you guys are using, and I also have something you guys may want. This is the very first sharpening bin that I bought when I first started the channel. I don't use it anymore, so I want to give it away to somebody. You just have to pay for shipping if you're okay with that. And so I will include in that kit my very first sharpening bridge and my very first sharpening base. This kit right here has helped make perfection what it is today. Kind of crazy, right? That I started this entire channel with these 3 pieces of sharpening equipment plus my knives and whetstones, and I'm only asking for shipping. This kit here will probably cost $20–25 to ship. For any of my subscribers who want a chance at this kit, let me know what knife you're using and what you're sharpening with now, and I'll make a selection based on that. And I will do my best to remember to put links to all the items used in today's video in the video description. Alright, well thank you guys for being here, and I'll catch you in the next video.